Headlines: Maldives pledges over $1.29 million to Palestine through the UNRWA. MSCL announces ambitious plans to convert 90% of the energy used at Velana International Airport to renewable sources within the next 2 years. And DNR decides to launch a new portal that will allow island residents to submit requests for ID cards through their respective island councils.
Welcome to the English News. I'm your host Malak Ahmad Fayaz. Now for the news in detail. The Maldives pledges over $1.29 million to Palestine through the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees in the Near East, UNRWA.
The announcement was made at the UNRWA pledging conference held at the UN headquarters by Dr. Ali Nasir Mohammed, the permanent representative of the Maldives to the UN. In his statement, Ambassador highlighted that the government of Maldives has increased its annual contribution to UNRWA tenfold from $5,000 to $50,000. He credited President Dr. Mohamed Muizzu for organizing a telethon to show solidarity with the Palestinian people. The public initiative raised over $1.2 million, which will be donated to Palestinians through UNRWA. UNRWA, established in 1948 by a resolution of the UN General Assembly, plays a crucial role in providing essential services and emergency assistance to Palestinians, particularly in Gaza, where the humanitarian situation is extremely dire. Ambassador Ali Nasir emphasized the importance of international support, urging the global community to meet its financial and political obligations to UNRWA. The decision to increase the Maldives' annual contribution to UNRWA from $5,000 to $50,000 was officially announced by President Dr. Muizzu on June 12th.
The global population continues to rise annually, presenting both developed and developing nations, including the Maldives, with the challenge of an increasing number of senior citizens.
In the Maldives, a strong working-age population is crucial for economic stability. However, the national birth rate has significantly decreased, while the number of senior citizens has risen. Recent national population census results have revealed several demographic concerns. According to the Maldives Bureau of Statistics, the total population stands at 515,132, with only 382,639 being local residents. Of the population, 76% are between the ages of 15 to 64, and only 20% are under the age of 15. This demographic shift indicates a rapid move towards an aging population without adequate facilities or resources to support it. Additionally, the annual decline in birth rates is a major concern. From 2014 to 2022, the population increased by 382,751 individuals, averaging an annual increase of 5,500 children. As the Maldives approaches an aging population with a decreasing birth rate, a significant decline in the working population is anticipated, potentially reducing national productivity. Importing human resources to fill workforce gaps could further strain the nation's economic performance. Senior government officials emphasized the limited time available to address these issues, highlighting the importance of holding meetings to discuss potential solutions. Some sources suggest that the declining birth rates are linked to challenges stemming from the housing crisis. Additionally, insufficient time allocated to families due to work demands and the financial challenges faced by couples with multiple children have been highlighted as contributing factors. Similar to other countries that have implemented measures to address these issues, the Maldives must urgently address its population problems at the national level.
Managing Director and the Chief Executive Officer CEO of Maldives Airports Company Limited MACL, Ibrahim Mohammed Sharif, announces ambitious plans to convert 90% of the energy used at Velana International Airport, VIA, to renewable sources within the next 2 years. This announcement was made during the program aired on PSMNEWS.
Currently, renewable energy sources account for only 4% of the Maldives' total energy usage. The administration aims to develop renewable energy systems to cover 33% of the nation's electrical needs within the next 5 years. Managing Director Sharif emphasized MACL's commitment to supporting this goal, outlining significant plans to transition VIA to renewable energy within the next 2 years. Deputy Managing Director of MACL, Mohammad Lamman, highlighted the eco-friendly and sustainable efforts underway at VIA. He mentioned that the new power plant at the airport will soon be operational, enhancing service delivery and supporting the transition to renewable energy. Lamman also revealed preparations for launching new airport development projects in line with these goals. The government has been making substantial efforts to develop VIA, as evidenced by the launch of a 20-year master plan by President Dr. Mohammad Muizzu in January. This master plan aims to expand VIA to accommodate 25 million passengers annually, with the capacity to efficiently serve 4,000 individuals per hour. These initiatives reflect the Maldives' broader commitment to sustainable development and renewable energy, positioning VIA as a leading example in the region.
The Department of National Registration (DNR) decides to launch a new portal that will allow island residents to submit requests for identity cards through their respective island councils. Preparations for the portal are nearing completion, with plans to go live by July 18th. Deputy Minister of Homeland Security and Technology Ahmad Ali spoke to PSMNEWS about the initiative. He explained that before the COVID-19 pandemic, island councils assisted in submitting ID card requests. However, this service has been discontinued. Although the previous government moved the ID card application and renewal process online, the council showed little interest in assisting, leading to challenges for residents in obtaining or renewing their ID cards. To address this issue, Deputy Minister Ali announced the creation of the online platform aimed at streamlining the ID card issuance process for residents. The portal is scheduled to be operational by July 18th. Additionally, a special training program for all island councils will be held on July 19th and 20th to ensure familiarity with the new system. Ali highlighted the difficulties faced with the previous administration left the DNR solely responsible for issuing ID cards, resulting in over 3,000 ID cards pending issuance when the current administration took office. These ID cards have since been issued. Currently, ID cards are being issued upon request through DNR's website. This new the efficiency and accessibility of ID card services for island residents, leveraging local council support to facilitate the process. The State Trading Organization STO approves a dividend distribution of $5.20 per share, marking the highest dividend payout by the company in the past 17 years. The decision was made at the company's annual general meeting AGM held in the Needy Lounge of the Novilo Seaplane Terminal at Velana International Airport, VIA.
STO AGM saw participation from 189 shareholders, with 99% voting in favor of the dividend contribution. Additionally, Deloitte was appointed as the company's external auditor for the next 6 years with a salary of $65,500. In the previous year, STO reported a revenue of $1 billion and an operating profit of $78 million. The total profit increased to $194 million, driven by higher fuel sales and growth in other business areas. Despite generating a revenue of $1.2 billion in 2022 with an operating profit of $64 million, STO noted a decrease in total revenue due to fluctuations in global fuel prices. This year, STO made a 12% progress in overall business performance. The company attributed this progress to enhanced business activities and increased total profit. The group's profit also increased to $71 million, marking a record amount generated by the group. STO's continued focus on strengthening and enhancing its business activities has contributed to its robust financial performance and record dividend payout, reflecting its commitment to delivering value to its shareholders.
The yen hit an almost 4-week high against the US dollar, rising speculation that Japanese authorities may have intervened for second day to prop up the currency.
The rally in the Japanese currency, which has been languishing at around 38-year lows, began just after data showed U.S. consumer prices for June eased, boosting the odds of the Federal Reserve cutting rates as soon as September. The move came after data showed that U.S. producer prices increased moderately in June. Daily operations data from the BOJ suggested the central bank had spent between 3.37 trillion and 3.57 trillion yen on buying the yen, less than 3 months after its last foray into the market. James Malcolm, head of FX strategy at UBS in London, said move may have been the result of an intervention or of rates checking. The Bank of Japan sometimes calls dealers to ask for rate levels, which can indicate a potential intervention and itself causes market moves. Tokyo's top currency diplomat Masato Kanda declined to comment on whether there was an intervention or rate checks, but said the fact that there had been a one-sided speculative move could not be ignored. The dollar was last down 0.56% at 157.91 yen, after earlier reaching 157.3, the lowest since June 17th. The yen touched a 38-year low of 161.96 per dollar last week. Tokyo intervened at the end of April and early in May, spending roughly 9.8 trillion yen to support the currency. There will be a month-end report from the Ministry of Finance that will confirm the amount spent on any intervention. The gap between US and Japanese rates has created a highly lucrative trading opportunity in which traders borrow the yen at low rates to invest in dollar-priced assets for a higher return known as carry trade. A Fed rate cut would dent the appeal of this trade.
Secretary General Antonio Guterres, standing alongside top officials in New York, underscores the essential need to bolster the UN agency assisting Palestine refugees, UNRWA across the Middle East amid continued attacks on its mandate, staff, premises and operations.
Speaking at a pledging conference for the agency, the UN chief outlined the countless challenges facing Palestinian civilians in Gaza.
Impossible conditions, and in the midst of their own grief, the women and men of UNRWA have bravely continued their work in whatever way they can. They are the backbone of humanitarian operations in Gaza. And can you imagine what it must be like to be in this situation? Can you imagine how our colleagues wake up day after day in a living nightmare and still deliver for Palestinians in desperate need? Because I cannot. They are doctors, nurses, counselors, engineers, drivers, and so many others, all demonstrating incredible courage and solidarity. And they are continuing to deliver UNRWA's mandate in desperate circumstances in Gaza, while UNRWA also strives to deliver in an increasingly challenging situation in the occupied West Bank, including East Jerusalem, and in Jordan, Lebanon and Syria, championing human development and human rights.
He warned that hopelessness is the greatest ally of instability, stressing that through its work, UNRWA is one of the greatest factors providing hope and stability across a troubled region. The UN chief said that without the necessary support and financing to UNRWA, Palestinian refugees will lose a critical lifeline and the last ray of hope for a better future. The agency has been supporting critical services including education, health and social services to some 5.9 million Palestinian refugees, including vulnerable groups such as women, children and persons with disabilities. It also administers 58 refugee camps, addressing the dire humanitarian needs of over 1.6 million people across Jordan, Lebanon, Syria and Gaza Strip and the West Bank, including East Jerusalem. UNRWA Commissioner General Philippe Lazzarini said that for decades the agency has been a force for stability across the region, stating that it is a driver of human development for Palestinian refugees, providing public-like services such as education and healthcare. In the Gaza Strip, more than 38,000 Palestinians are reported to have been killed, a further 88,000 injured, and about 90% of population displaced, many several times. Tensions are also boiling over in the West Bank, and there are mounting fears of a spillover of the war into Lebanon as Israeli forces exchange daily fire with Hezbollah militants.
In a determined stand against mounting pressure, President Joe Biden reaffirms his candidacy, asserting his readiness to contest the upcoming November elections.
Speaking at a campaign rally in Detroit, Michigan, Biden addressed concerns raised following a contentious debate performance against former President Donald Trump. Biden declared that he is well qualified to run for president, pushing back against sells from Democratic lawmakers, donors and supporters, urging him to step aside. The scrutiny intensified after his lackluster showing in the first televised debate on June 27th, where critics questioned his ability to effectively counter Trump's rhetoric. During his rally speech, Biden highlighted his opposition to Trump's policies, particularly focusing on what he termed Project 2025, a controversial proposal allegedly aimed at reclassifying federal civil service workers based on their political affiliations. Biden condemned this initiative as divisive and pledged to thwart such efforts, rallying supporters to unite against what he described as an existential threat posed by Trump's agenda. The president claimed that Project 2025 is going to let him round up over 10 million people in America and put them in detention camps, ripping them away from their homes, their schools, because Trump calls them animals who poison the blood of America. He criticized Trump's approach to governance, accusing him of purging dissenting voices and implementing policies detrimental to American values. Meanwhile, Donald Trump distanced himself from 900-page Project 2025, a conservative blueprint purportedly aimed at shaping policies for a second Republican term.
Are you with me?
JP Morgan Chase, Citigroup and Wells Fargo kicked off U.S. corporate earnings season with mixed results, sending shares of all three lenders down and putting the S&P Bank Index on track for its worst day in nearly 2 months.
Big banks kicked off the U.S. corporate earnings season Friday with a mixed bag of results. JP Morgan Chase beat estimates for second quarter profit as its investment banking business benefited from a resurgence in deal-making. CEO Jamie Dimon said that while the economic outlook was, quote, benign, the bank continues to be, quote, vigilant about potential tail risks. JP Morgan shares were trading lower Friday morning. Shares of Wells Fargo slid more than 6% as the lender missed estimates for quarterly net interest income, the difference between what a bank earns on loans and pays out for deposits. Meanwhile, Citigroup posted a 60% surge in investment banking revenue and reported gains in its services division. But shares fell more than 2% as investors saw challenges for Citi broadening market share and reducing its expenses. Analysts have called 2024 a transitional year for Citi as CEO Jane Fraser carries out a sweeping overhaul of the bank in an effort to improve its performance and cut costs. Declining bank stocks pushed the S&P 500 Financials Index lower, while the bank's index, down more than 2%, was on track for its biggest single-day slump in nearly 2 months.
The Association of Summer Olympic International Federations, ASOIF, says that an investigation by American law enforcement into a doping case involving 23 Chinese swimmers could keep the United States, U.S. from hosting future sporting events.
World Aquatics confirmed last week that its executive director, Brent Nowicki, has been subpoenaed by the U.S. government to testify in an investigation into how the Chinese swimmers escaped punishment after testing positive and weeks later were allowed to compete in the Tokyo Olympics. A U.S. House of Representatives committee in May called on the Department of Justice, DOJ, to launch inquiries ahead of this year's Paris Olympics to ensure American athletes would be competing on a level playing field. The results of an independent investigation into the Chinese matter by Swiss prosecutor Eric Courtier, released on Tuesday, found the World Anti-Doping Agency, WADA, has not mishandled the case. The US investigation has chilled relations between the 2028 Olympic host country and a chunk of the international sporting community, with some federations expressing concern about sending officials to the United States over fears they could be arrested. SOF said it wants clarifications from the US Olympic and Paralympic Committee USOPC and the 2028 Los Angeles Olympic Organizing Committee regarding their position on WADA, which has come under intense criticism from United States Anti-Doping Agency Chief Travis Tygart. Neither USADA, USOPC, or the organizers of the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics or 2034 Salt Lake City Winter Games responded to a Reuters request for comment. Any investigation would fall under the Rodchenkov Act legislation passed in 2020 that extends U.S. law enforcement jurisdiction to any international sporting competitions that involve American athletes or have financial connections to the United States. Named after Grigory Rodchenkov, a former Russian anti-doping laboratory head who turned whistleblower and helped expose Russia's state-sponsored doping, the act criminalizes doping schemes intended to influence sports events and allows U.S. prosecutors to seek prison terms of up to 10 years and fines of up to $1 million.
SpaceX's workhorse Falcon 9 rocket was grounded by the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration (FAA) after one broke apart in space and doomed its payload of Starlink satellite links. The first failure in more than 7 years of a rocket relied upon by the global space industry. Zachary Goldman produced this report.
Vehicle is pitching downrange.
This SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket lifted off from Vandenberg Space Force Base in California on Thursday night, carrying a payload of Starlink satellites.
State separation confirmed.
But roughly an hour later, the rocket's second stage failed to reignite and deployed its 20 satellites to a shallower orbital path. They will soon re-enter and burn up in Earth's atmosphere. CEO Elon Musk on Friday wrote on X that the attempt to reignite the rocket, quote, resulted in an engine RUD for reasons currently unknown. RUD is an acronym for Rapidly Unscheduled Disassembly that usually means explosion. It's the first failure in more than 7 years of a rocket relied upon by the global space industry. And on Friday, the Federal Aviation Administration said in a statement the Falcon 9 was grounded until SpaceX investigates the cause of the failure, fixes the rocket, and receives the agency's approval. That process could take several weeks or months, depending on the complexity of the failure and SpaceX's plan to fix it. The botched mission of the world's most active rocket breaks a success streak of more than 300 straight missions during which SpaceX has maintained its dominance of the launch industry. Many countries and space companies rely on privately owned SpaceX, valued at roughly $200 billion, to send their satellites and astronauts into space. Falcon 9 is the only U.S. rocket capable of sending NASA space crews to the International Space Station. The U.S. Space Agency was expecting to launch its next astronaut mission in August. NASA did not immediately respond to a request for comment.
That's all the news we have for today. Thank you all for watching.